Hi, I'm Dave Duncan. I'm the owner of Camelot Studios, and I was a cameraman and editor, and also did some music production on The Hackers.
Oh, I hope it don't stain.
I'm John Duncan. I'm the writer and director of the Hacker movie, and we shot that movie in 1987.
Our company, Camelot Studios, we started in 1983, and we started with a couple cable TV shows for our local cable. And during that, we also had our family, we started a couple video stores. And it was through the video stores that we realized in actually renting movies that a horror movie was one video that you could rent out, and it didn't have to have any stars in it. It didn't have to have any big names. It just had to have a great-looking box, and then it would rent. So that we went under that assumption with The Hackers. The movie was about a father and his two sons who were in the construction business, and they basically built homes and built did repair projects on homes. And if the owner didn't like the job, or there was any kind of miscommunication in what work was to be done, they had their own way of settling payment disputes.
We always collect what we got coming.
The idea for the movie came about from my father's building company, and he had the foreman of the building company was actually Howard Coburn, who played Pa in the movie, and he worked for my father as a foreman, and his two and several of his sons actually worked for my father. Now his sons weren't actually in the movie; those were not his sons. But it was interesting because in the building company, he would yell at his sons when they were working, and it was just, we found it was kind of comical, and it was kind of a little bit of the inspiration for the way the movie went.
We wanted to use as many local locations as possible so people could look at the movie and say, hey, I know that place, or I was there. We decided to shoot in Lexington at the harbor, and then also in Croswell at the Swinging Bridge, and then also in Port Huron at the Blue Water Bridge, which are all great locations. The main house where the movie was shot was our farm home just outside of Applegate, Michigan. And it was a large home, around 4,000 square feet, and had barns, and we had some horses and other animals there. And we shot most of the movie there. One of the main scenes was shot at the Croswell Hotel bar, and it was a very complex in that the Arnie Hacker and Eldon cut a fellow's throat who for making remarks about them in the bar, and placed his face in the pitcher of beer and left the building.
The budget for The Hackers was very minimal. We had to, we were in the video business, and we had to basically do regular work for clients during the week, and The Hackers was produced in evenings and weekends. And budget-wise, there wasn't much budget. Most of the actors volunteered their time. Crew basically volunteered their time. And there was a lot of costs involved regarding when we brought it out, as far as in printing costs and whatnot. My role in the movie was I was basically the cameraman. I had a short scene on the front. I was actually had my debut of acting, and that was the only acting I've ever really done. That was I got my thumb cut off in the first scene, so that was fun. Other than that, I was a cameraman, and then when it came to the editing side of it, I was the editor and also in charge of music production on it. The cast, we had a really good lead role. Our main actress was phenomenal. For somebody that was just off the street that never had acted before, she was great.
Howard was not an actor. He was playing himself. And if you knew him personally, you would say he's perfect for the part.
One thing, with acting and that, it seems like all your best actors are actually playing themselves. That's what I see. And Howard was just playing himself. Dale Coggle, he played Arnie. He was a friend of mine growing up. An interesting fact about Arnie is when we were filming it, there's a scene in there where he cuts his finger off, and with a skill saw. Now, he actually was missing his finger all the time. He had lost his finger in an accident working in a factory. So we're thinking, well, I wonder if, we're into the script we're shooting for quite a while, and we're wondering, is his hand visible anywhere? And we're saying, no, I don't think it was. So we actually wrote it into the script that he loses his finger with the skill saw and show it, and we're hoping that in earlier scenes, there's nowhere that actually shows he's missing his finger already. So it just made it easier. It made it easier to produce, because without a finger, we just had to put some blood and some stuff on the end of his nub there, basically, and provide all, the syringes pumping the blood up and like arteries, and it worked out pretty well.
Steve Pritchard, my nephew, played the part of Eldon Hacker, which is a very challenging part. He had to play a part where there's a non-speaking role, and he had to use all the expressions of his hands and his feet and his shoulders, and he did a wonderful job on the part.
Special effects wise for the Hackers, we basically, the internet was not what it is today. I mean, it wasn't even there then. I mean, so, you had to kind of figure out, you'd get books and kind of see what you could do. Well, most of what we used, these big syringes, and we had some tubing like they would use on a fish tank, and we would make our blood with Caro syrup and red food dye, basically. And then if we had to mold or anything, we would actually use plaster of Paris and do imprints of our thumbs for the thumb scene. We did an imprint of that, and then we filled it with this putty that actually would mold, the thumb, and then we paint it to look like a real thumb. So that's basically what we did. We used a lot of fake blood, a lot of tissue paper, and different tricks that were used at that time for torn flesh and that type of look.
We were in the construction business for many years, and the truck was left over when we phased out the business and went into the video production. And we had the truck and we weren't using it, so we decided to work it in the movie, which became one of the main props. We had one scene in Lexington Harbor where a fisherman was fishing, and our two characters, Eldon and Arnie, went fishing. And the fellow started making fun of them about the fishing. And by the time they left the fishing spot, they had his head in a bucket, which we made up special. Prop-wise, it was quite difficult because we had to take a plastic bucket and cut the side of it out and place it over the fellow's head, plus a glass area in here full of water on top, and shoot down through it so he could see his face through the water with his eyes open, just exposing his head only.
The post-production process for the Hackers was very difficult. At that time, we were using 3/4-inch machines. It was shot on 3/4-inch videotape, which is a real large format, and at that time there was no camcorder. So you had a camera linked to a recorder, which was in two pieces, very heavy to carry around. The cameras were tube cameras. They weren't even chip cameras. Chips weren't even out yet. So they were tube cameras. You had to watch out for burns. You had to, you could burn them if you hit the sun with them. The post-production process of it was with 3/4-inch tape machines. So there wasn't nonlinear editing, wasn't available yet. You couldn't just slip a scene in here or there. It had to be pretty much thought out as you were, as it was scripted and then laid down. One of the real tricky parts was in the audio. The audio, on 3/4 inch, we only had 2 tracks of audio. So we took an A3340 TX 4-track audio tape deck, which was a big reel-to-reel, and we synced that up by sight and with magic markers, and would time it out so that we would have these extra audio tracks in order to put the music in. And it was just very difficult. It was, I mean, compared to today, it was a real task. I wouldn't say the Hackers ever became big. It's interesting today because it actually has kind of a cult, campy following, and there's characters out there. I get emails from people. I got email from a fellow in Canada, and he's an engineer now somewhere in Windsor, and he sent me some pictures of him standing in the Hacker house, and it was kind of odd because he said, he says, my wife, she was my girlfriend at the time, we did a pilgrimage of Hacker sites back around, and this would have been around 2000, and they visited, the Hackers was actually shot in the house I grew up in. And he sent me a picture of him standing in the living room of that house. It was a little bit creepy, but it was interesting because it did have, there was a lot of people that saw it, and some people, it really did make them, some people really liked it.
While we were making the movie, there were many people in the background that didn't realize we were making a movie. And when the movie came out, they were telling friends, hey, they saw themselves in our movie.
I don't know if we ever made we probably never made a profit on it, other than it was a great learning experience for our company, and for me individually. It was great because I just learned a whole lot producing it, because we covered all aspects of production, and it was just a great learning experience.